Howdy guys and gals, I'm Kyle Broderick. Welcome to the Social Regressive. In our new optics renaissance where we have glass getting better every time, feature sets getting better, and prices dropping on really a whole lot of excellent scopes all across the board, you might be wondering what 75 bucks is going to get you at Walmart. And it turns out it's actually quite a bit. This is the Simmons ProTarget Rimfire. This one is just a straight magnification 4x32. And this is just a fantastic scope. I've checked out some Simmons models in the past, like you might remember the 44 mag that I tested out back on the Savage Axis rifle. It had a lot of good things going for it. It actually had pretty good glass on it, as long as you were kind of looking through the center of the glass. And it did have the exposed turret caps and all that. And it had a price tag of only $100, but it was kind of missing some things, and we ended up shelving that one. And it kind of felt in some ways like, some of the Simmons models that were out in the catalog had been shelved as well, that they had stopped innovating and that they were just kind of, stuck in whatever form they were and sort of forgotten about. But the folks at Simmons have apparently been doing their homework, and they have basically replaced everything in their catalog. And everything in their catalog actually looks really good right now. I've been hearing some good reports about the Simmons ProTarget, and so the AE Tech, I think, is one that they've updated. And they have they all look like they've just been really fixed up. Good turrets, good glass, and this is no exception. This is a kind of a simple form factor, and it's designed specifically for rimfire rifles. There's the ProTarget, which is going to be good for your center fires and your ARs and all that, properly braced, all that good stuff. But this is set up specifically for rimfires, and not just 22 long rifle like the Savage A22 that you see behind me here on the bench, but actually for 17 HMR as well. So this is one that's designed to not just be set up for rimfire and only be able to handle that kind of recoil or whatever, and maybe it can handle more. I wouldn't test it myself, but it actually has some features that point specifically toward rimfire, and we'll dig into those here in a second. Before we start taking a look at the features and functions of this scope, I wanted to point out that it is not actually available for sale yet. This is a production model scope right here. This is not pre-production. This is the actual real deal. But I think that they are manufacturing a bunch right now and getting them ready to put out on the shelves. And speaking of those shelves, yes, you will be able to find them at all kinds of online retailers like Midway USA, Optics Planet, and Amazon. And I'll put links to some places where you can buy them down below eventually. But at first, with this video out of the gate, there probably won't be anything out there. But you will actually be able to find this, I think, very easily on the shelves, like, at Walmart's or at local sporting goods stores, just because this is a very good value for money. This is going to be one that I think is going to be pretty ubiquitous because it's a great little scope, and its price tag is going to be very comfortable for a lot of folks. The first thing I'd like to point out is one conspicuous absence. You'll see that there is no zoom ring right here where it usually is toward the ocular end. And that's because this is a fixed power scope. This is a 4x32, so it doesn't have a gigantic objective out here. It doesn't really have a gigantic anything going on, and it is that fixed 4 power. And this, I think, is one of the things that makes this such a brilliant scope. One of the things that people kind of forget about is as you add mechanical complexity and as you add more lenses, you're going to, in most cases, you're going to decrease the quality of your image overall, and you're going to add, of course, a bunch more weight. So this one right here comes in at only 8.8 ounces. That makes this just perfect for that handy little squirrel gun that you want to take out to be able to just kind of plink around and do anything. Great for your kid's first gun. It's not going to really upset the rifle overall. As you step up to the variable power models that they have a 2-7 and a 3-9 by 40 millimeter. Those are going to add some extra weight. So you're getting up toward 11.2 ounces, which is still quite light, less than a pound. And then 11.2 ounces on the 3-9 as well. And so both of those are still very light, but in order to keep things way down low where you might like them for a quick to deploy rifle, this fixed power is pretty sweet. With the exception of any kind of focus knob, because this scope doesn't need that sort of thing, all of these in this line are not powerful enough to rate a parallax adjustment. This does have all the usual controls. Back here, you have a fast focus eyepiece. This is not the old lockable type. So this is one where if you do find your perfect diopter adjustment, go ahead and mark it on both sides here so that you can make sure you can hit it again in case you accidentally do spin it. This does spin very easily, so it's going to be easy for you to get to your exact spot. Up front, a little closer, we have the turrets. As you can see, these are exposed. These are not capped. These are meant to be grabbed and used in the field. And this is where the scope gets really interesting. Inside here at the back, there is going to be a second focal plane reticle, and it's a very simple one. It's just a crosshair. No kind of bullet drop compensation or anything like that. Instead, this scope is built for a drop compensation happening up here. So what you get actually from the factory is a set of turret knobs. So this right here is the one that came on it initially. This just counts up by 4s. This is a 1/4 MOA model all the way around, both on elevation and on windage. And with this, you can just do your usual clicks if you want to do that. I, however, have swapped over to this one, which, as you can see, it says 50 back here, over to 75, over to 100. And what this is set up for is 22 long rifle. You can see right there. So this should have ballistics built in for your most common 22 long rifle ammunition. There is also one in the box. This is a rimfire rifle, not just a 22 rifle. So this actually has one for 17 HMR. Pretty cool. And they might release some others in the future. Maybe they'll have a 22 WMR or something like that. But yeah, for now you get these three. And I have been able to test this out, and it does work pretty darn well with your kind of standard ammunition. I'm not exactly sure what trajectory and what bullet, maybe what ammunition type this is perfectly set up for, but it's close enough with basically everything that I tested that yeah, it does work out really well. And kind of the 0 point for all this is that 50 yards. So you zero this at 50, and then as you spin around, you'll be able to get your exact drops. Now, there is one thing I should point out here. Of course, since this is one that you can set for your 0 on your rifle, you need some way to take this turret cap off and spin it around. And this is the kind of old school style where you use some wrenches and you unscrew the little set screws inside here, and then you can spin it around. And in good form, they have actually included those wrenches in the packaging. So you get a wrench for the included rings. That's kind of neat. These, I believe, are made by Tasco. And actually, the ones that came in the box were a little bit taller than this. That's usually how it goes. If you get rings from the factory, then usually they're going to be set up so that it can fit on a flat top receiver, like an AR receiver, just to make sure that that bell clears. Since, however, we are on a bolt action rifle and we have more clearance of options over here, I went ahead and requested these extra low ones that they have. These Tascos are actually working just fine. They're going to be just perfect for a rimfire rifle like this one. And yeah, 1-inch tube on here, 1-inch rings. This is the lowest one that they have, and yeah, working just fine. Before we move on from the turrets, I should point out that these actually move quite well. They lock neatly from spot to spot. They're very easy to spin, a little bit rubbery feeling. It kind of bounds over each of those detents rather than locking extremely tightly into place, which I think is probably a good match for children especially that want to be able to turn this very easily and very quickly from spot to spot. It does, stay locked in position pretty well. It's not going to knock off too easily. It doesn't really have any sound. There's very little, but it does have a decent feel to it. Over here on the windage side, this is a capped turret, and this is probably not one that you're going to be spinning around much in the field to deal with your windage. You'll probably just want to estimate it using the X reticle in there. This, as you can see on the front side, has no markings. Over around here, oops. Over here on this side, you can see that we do have all the markings and that this is resettable. You do get the little set screws that you can change out in here if you want to be able to reset 0. But for the most part, this is kind of a lock and leave turret. The mechanicals work fine, and we're going to take a close look at that glass, but first off, I wanted to show you some of the other things they throw in the box. You get these bikini-style plastic lens covers, which are going to work just fine for keeping debris off the lenses if you're transporting this. And then if you do happen to get them dirty, there you go, microfiber cloth included in the box. And I should point out, first off, that the lenses on here are all fully multi-coated, which is very nice for such a budget-priced scope. This is going to come in below $100. We're going to see what it actually starts retailing for here in the future. But yeah, if you find one of these on the shelf at Walmart or whatever, it should be coming in pretty well below $100. We'll keep an eye out for that. But the image through here is much better than what you would expect. We have good mechanicals, we seem to have a good build quality overall, and it seems like you got to give up something, and it's not the glass quality. The glass quality is right up there, I think, with the Bushnell Prime. It's a very bright image overall. Color reproduction is quite nice. It doesn't seem to have any kind of yellow or bluish cast to it. It seems to match up with reality quite well. Much like the Bushnell Prime, this does have excellent resolution, especially toward the center of the image. Like the Bushnell Prime, it's going to fall off a bit toward the edges, so it's going to get a little bit mushy. But for most of the work that you're going to be doing where you're concentrating on that squirrel and maybe not his buddies that are way off over here on the edge, this is going to get the job done. It has quite a bit of resolution going on. You can see a lot of detail, and that bright, colorful image overall is something that's quite shocking. If you're used to some of your cheap scopes that maybe you get for your air rifles and things like that, this is not like that at all. This is not a toy scope. This is not your typical cheap air rifle scope. This is something that's meant for business. It's gonna get the job done. Back here, we have 3.5 inches of eye relief from the ocular bell right here. And it's a very forgiving image overall. If you get your eye just a little bit out of place back here, you know, maybe you don't get a perfect cheek weld or something on the stock, it's going to be very forgiving. You're going to get a good view. And part of that's just going to be that it's, you know, kind of low power at 4x. And then just with its, you know, kind of prime setup overall where you have the fixed power, it's going to be very forgiving. This is going to be a great scope for kids. Now that we've seen the form, features, functions, and optical clarity of this scope, it's time to talk about purpose. What is a scope like this actually good for? Why would you buy it? This is an excellent form factor that I highly recommend. If you have a lightweight 22 that you want to keep just ready for any situation, like maybe a squirrel pops up in the backyard, you want to do a little rabbit hunting, maybe it's your kid's first scope on his 22, and you want to be able to keep it lightweight and keep the balance good and make it so that he can, you know, really get on target. This is a great step up from a lot of those air rifle scopes or, you know, kind of cheap 22 scopes that we used to have when we were kids that really looked like you were looking through plastic lenses. It looked like a toy, and in a lot of ways those scopes really were. But this is a great step up. And I think everybody's going to get a good use out of this in a general way. If you just want to plink around at the range and have some fun, great choice. It has a good feature set, good glass, clear reticle, very simple, and is going to be able to flex into a whole bunch of situations. So this is not going to be your NRL 22 type of scope. This is not going to have that kind of precision or anything where you can see your little targets really close up. This one's going to be useful in a broad range of scenarios, but not for any of those really particular ones. And 4x, I must mention, is a great choice there. It allows you to get on target pretty reasonably. And, you know, if you're zoomed in too much, a lot of time you can lose your target. This one's going to keep that and give you a bit of field of view around your target. Really good setup the way that they have this. Thanks a lot to Simmons for sending this out for me to check out here. I am just blown away by what they've been doing, especially keeping that price tag so low. I really don't know how they're doing it, but great job, you guys. The whole catalog is looking good, and I hope to be able to test out maybe one or two of their other scopes here in the future. Also, thank you to everybody that has made these videos possible, kept the cameras rolling and the lights on. Thank you to patrons of the destructive arts for, kind of picking up on all this and keeping these videos going. Thank you to Sportsman's Guide at the 338 Lapua Magnum level, Stan and Mary at the 338 Lapua Magnum level. Thank you to Peter at the 300 Win Mag level, and to everybody else. I really do appreciate it, you guys, and everybody else that watches these videos and hopefully gets something out of them. Really appreciates it as well. If anybody else wants to chip in $1 or $2 a month to keep these videos coming, I'll put a link to Patreon around here somewhere. I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These 2 videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, The Social Regressive is on Patreon. So you can become a patron of the destructive arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.